And we're back, y'all. Good evening, everybody. Happy night, is it? I think I lost today. I am a little over 72 hours. Actually, it is about 74 hours into my fast for this week. As you know, I normally do a 72-hour fast, and this week is a little longer. We're going to spend some time talking about that. But tonight, we also want to talk about some of the myths that people talk about when they discuss fasting. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology, and here in the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to reverse their diabetes and get off of some of those diabetes medications. And I welcome you to the show tonight. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because we would love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that we are happy that you are here. If you're new, also go ahead and put in the comments if you have questions and put those in the comments and make sure that you have a queue in front of those so that we can get to those as we get into the evening. I welcome wherever you're joining us from, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, any of those platforms. We're glad that you are here. And I'm excited because just in a few days, we'll be celebrating here on the channel 4 years of being live. For not necessarily being live, but 4 years of being on the channel. Most of that has been live. And it is our 4-year anniversary. We've got some amazing things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on the channel. You'll get to see lots of the shows that we've done over the course of the year, particularly as we do the New Year, New You. We've got some kudos, some shout outs that are coming in from some other creators in the creator space and some people that have been on the show. You want to make sure that you are here. It is 24 hours. It is a 24-hour stream, and it is going to be on Dwain Woode MD/live. That's youtube.com/Dwain Woode MD/live. You want to make sure that you get in there and that you tune in. If you've not already done so, this past week we started working on the third pillar of reversing diabetes, and that is reducing sugar, right? Reducing sugar. We spent time talking about the first pillar, which is decrease insulin. The second pillar was to suppress the appetite, and this past week we started talking about reducing sugar. So if you've not done so yet, make sure you get out there and you watch those shows leading up to this one, and that you are taking part of that. And then as we do, I've got my monitors off to the side that we're going to be taking a look at in just a minute. And I also have my Dexcom report that we're going to take a look at to see what's been going on with my blood sugar. So make sure you get there and make sure you take a look at those. Just very excited to be here with you all tonight. And our topic for tonight, as I mentioned, is dealing with myths about fasting. Myths about fasting. We're going to be going through those. But before we get there, let's go ahead and do a check-in. I always like to do that so that we can, so that you can see where I am. And I always want to talk about where I am physically, mentally, and emotionally, because these are the places where a lot of people find that they will have trouble if they're having fasting issues, right? So you want to make sure that you are there and that you are taking care of what you need to, okay? So physically, when we talk about physically, the thing that people often struggle with is fatigue. But some of the other symptoms that people will have, palpitations, lightheadedness, dizziness, feeling jittery, and those are symptoms that you will have, particularly as we get into some of the longer fasting, just as we are starting to move from burning glucose or glycogen into burning ketones. So some people will feel that transition and they'll feel that kind of like weakness. But right now, in terms of energy, as you know, I just came back from a camping trip. And that was a 7-day essentially camping trip. We took 2 days to get there. We camped for about 4 days, and we actually had to end the camping trip early because of the storms that were coming through. And so we got back home on Sunday and then back into the swing of things as we prepared for our anniversary coming up and then getting back to work. Okay, so lots of things that were going on. And during the course of last week, not a lot of rest. But despite that, coming into this week, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I'm not feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, any of those things. As you know, one of the reasons why we will feel lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, jittery is if our blood sugars are being driven down, particularly if we're on medication, right? And medication will cause you to feel a lot of those symptoms. So physically right now, feeling pretty energetic. Mentally, I'm feeling clear and not feeling foggy, dull, slow, sluggish, all of those words that people will use. Those words also come into play if we're not well rested. Okay, so if you're well rested, then those things typically don't happen. We'll talk a little bit here when we get to emotionally, but in terms of how you're feeling mentally, it has a lot to do with how you do physically, in terms of energy, in terms of rest, and your preparation for the fast. We will do a check-in later this week where we do a review of fasting. Make sure you join us for that, and we'll kind of walk through much of this in much more detail as we talk about the different phases. And then emotionally, this was an interesting week, this past week. But emotionally, I'm feeling energetic. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling pumped. I'm not feeling down or depressed in terms of my emotions. This coming off of the camping trip, for me, it was exciting. I mean, there were a lot of things that happened, a lot of bumps in the roads. You know, we had the storms that came through. We had to dry out tents. We had to move tents. We had to take tents down. There were other people around us that had tents that were destroyed. But for the most part, I had a good time, even though we had a lot of our campers that had, because we were elevated, higher elevations with dust and so forth, we had a lot of campers that had issues, but we still had a good time in that space. Okay, so how I'm feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then let's hop over and let's take a look at blood sugars, and you'll see there on the screen that is my Dexcom that you see on the screen right now. Dexcom says that my blood sugar is 80, and once again, I am 74 hours, a little over 74 hours now into the fast. Okay, so the Libre says, and let me, so that was the Dexcom, says that I was 80, and the Libre says that my blood sugar is 54 right now. And you'll see down at the bottom, actually, let me go back to the Dexcom for a minute, and you'll see down there at the bottom that over the course of the last, let me do 24 hours. Yeah, there we go. Over the course of the last 24 hours, the blood sugar has been kind of hovering in the 100s and then started dropping as we got around 4 o'clock, and then now down to 80. If we look at the Libre, and the Libre, or all monitors can be different from each other, and that's what you're seeing right now. So you'll see the Libre says 54, and actually starting from early this morning, maybe 10, 11 o'clock, you'll see that graph down at the bottom. My blood sugars, according to this, have been below 70. So that bottom line, the dashed line that you see there, right below the green, that's 70, and you'll see that my blood sugar has been riding below that. So let's go and let's take a look and see what the blood sugars are doing with. Let me do one thing here really quickly. Let's see what the blood sugars are doing here in terms of what my monitors are showing. Okay. Let's do that really quickly. And so I have a Keto Mojo monitor and I have a Contour. As you know, I have both of those. And then, of course, as you know, I have, let's pop over this one. I have two sensors. I've got a Libre that's on this arm, and I've got a Dexcom that's on this one. Maybe this one will be better. All right, see one there Okay, and then the other one over on this side. Okay, all right. But let's go over and we're going to take a look at the right over here is where I have my monitors, and that's what we're going to take a look at right now. So let's go ahead and this is the contour. Let's get a strip out for that one. All right, come on. Get that in there. And then we'll start with the glucose for the Keto Mojo. So let me get rid of this one. And we'll just basically open this up. And these are the test strips that go into the Keto Mojo. Just like that. And then down below you'll see I have my Lancets. So I'm going to just get the others off the screen and pick one of those. And this is a spring-loaded one, as I've mentioned before. I'm going to go ahead and we take the top off. Just like that. And when I press this lever, then the spring comes out and it gives a little poke. And let me see, let's use this. I'm going to pick a different finger than I normally do. As you know, sometimes it doesn't go the way I want it to go. So let's go ahead and pick a different finger. And hopefully you heard that click. And let's see, did we get a good drop of blood? Yes, we did. There you go. So get that onto the Keto Mojo. And also onto the contour. All right, so Keto Mojo says 58, and the contour says 62. Okay, so 58, 62, and then of course the Libre says 54 right now. So you can see, right? You can see where those are. What do you think my ketones are going to be? So 74 plus hours of fasting. So let's go ahead and take the strip out there for blood sugar. We're going to get the ketone strip in, get a drop of blood, and get that going. All right, so that one, as that one's going, and of course, as I do, I'm going to tease you guys again and not show you what what that is. We'll come back and we'll see that here in just a minute. But if you think you know what it's going to be, go ahead and drop those in the comments. We'd love to know what your thoughts are on where those blood sugars, or where those ketones are. Okay, all right. And as we move over, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit. I keep saying a little bit, but let's talk about our topic for tonight. So we're talking about myths. Okay, so 72 plus hours is where I am, and then we're going to talk about myths. And let me do one thing really quickly. There we go. Okay, so I want to make sure that we are. Well, I see. Okay, I just want to make sure that we are out in the stream. I see myself here on my phone as live, but I do not see it here on my restream. But that doesn't mean, let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, so there it is. So it is broadcasting. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it over here. But if you're on any of the other platforms, go ahead and say hello. Yeah, go ahead and drop us a message and say hello. Say, hey, I'm out here and I am seeing you. But right now, yeah, looks like we're doing well. Looks like we're doing fine. I do see myself out here. Okay, good. All right. So myths, right? So myths. When we talk about fasting, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of people who think that fasting can't be safe, can't be done well, doesn't do the things that it says that it's proposed to do. And for a long time, actually, if you go back several years ago, fasting was not a thing in terms of health. Now, fasting was done, for thousands of years for religious reasons, for spiritual practices, for cultural reasons. But in terms of health, it's a relatively new idea when it comes to wellness. Now, there are a lot of cultures that did fasting, as part of their cultural thoughts of getting the body stronger, of clearing the mind, and even sometimes of healing the body from certain things. But as a tool in the health space, fasting is relatively new. And so there are a lot of myths out there, a lot of thoughts that people have. So we're going to spend some time tonight just kind of going through those and talking about some of those myths. And one of the first myths, so myths and legends, is that fasting leads to chronic fatigue, right? So I just talked about the process of fasting, and I went through physical, mental, emotional. And a lot of times people will talk about fasting and say that fasting will lead to chronic fatigue. If you're fasting too often, then your body gets into this space. And the truth is that while some people may feel tired initially, right? Initially, fasting often leads to increased energy, right, as the body adapts and starts efficiently using fat for fuel. Remember, that's the conversion or the switching from glucose or glycogen to ketones as is burning fat. The initial fatigue is usually temporary as the body shifts from using glucose to fat as a source of fuel and as a source of energy. Okay, so that goes back once again to the check-in that I did a little earlier, where we talked about how I was feeling mentally, physically, emotionally, right? Those lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, and so forth. The big one that people will talk about is this idea of fatigue, and not just in this initial space, or not just in the initial time when you're fasting, but people will say, hey, you're going to get chronic fatigue as well. And that is not something that typically we see. And, as it mentions there, that this initial thing that you get is temporary, and the body will switch, the body will change as we move into a different space. Okay? All right. So that's myth number one. Myth number one. Myth number two, and actually let's do one thing here. So myth number two is that fasting causes blood sugars to drop dangerously low. Blood sugars go down dangerously low. Now, this is a particular concern for patients who are diabetics, because as you know, with diabetes, if you're on medication particularly, one of the things that diabetics fear is that blood sugars will go too low. And once you've had one low blood sugar, it is hard to think about going back there or having another one. There's often times when we will have someone who has a low blood sugar, and they keep their blood sugars much, much higher just because they don't want to go back to that space. They don't want to feel that again. The lightheadedness, the dizziness, the foggy thinking, the inability to communicate sometimes. Sometimes people will feel a little although they're paralyzed, right? So people do not want to get there. Fatigue. So fasting causes blood sugars to drop dangerously low. And the truth is that for most healthy people, blood sugars remain stable during fasting, right? And we'll take a look at my blood sugars here in a minute as we look through my monitor or my report. The body produces glucose through gluconeogenesis. That is taking glucose and creating, or taking other substances and creating glucose from non-glucose material like fat, protein, and so forth. And it uses fat stores to maintain energy levels. People with diabetes, right, should consult their healthcare provider. That makes sense, right? Yes. Make sure that you are consulting your healthcare provider as you're moving into fasting. And you should do that before you fast. Myth number 3, you need to eat breakfast to kickstart your metabolism. Now, this is a big one. And the whole idea of breakfast, right? People say breakfast, breaking the fast. And they propose, or people say that this is the most important meal because it's supposed to jumpstart metabolism. The fact is that most people, when they wake up in the morning, other than the fact that they've been trained or culturized or they've gotten into the habit, most people are not hungry. Most people don't feel hungry, don't need to eat. And in fact, most people don't have an appetite other than the fact that it is breakfast time, or they remember, let me tell on myself, okay? So we spent years going to a particular hotel chain whenever we traveled. And we went to that chain because they gave breakfast. And I remember eating breakfast, right? So I would always say to my wife, hey, we're going to this hotel because they have breakfast. Because in my mind, breakfast was this thing. But that was because I was culturized. I was trained. I had developed the habit of being in that space, right? So breakfast, you need to eat breakfast to kickstart your metabolism. And the truth is, the idea that breakfast is necessary to kickstart metabolism is really outdated, right? We've come to new understanding. Fasting doesn't cause the metabolism to slow. It may increase metabolism due to the rise in norepinephrine, so that's one of the stress hormones. Skipping breakfast during intermittent fasting, for example, doesn't impair metabolism, right? So it's a new idea. It's a relatively new idea, let me say it that way. But for a long time, people have said that, hey, you have to have breakfast, and that is not the case. That is not the case. Fasting is just another fad diet, is another myth. And as I mentioned before, fasting has been around for thousands of years. It has been used for lots of different things. There have been cultures that have used it for religious practices, as I mentioned, for different rituals in their culture. So it is not a new thing. It is not a new thing. And it has been used in the past as a way to improve metabolism, to improve thought process, to get centered. And so it is not a new thing. It is not a fad diet. And let's pop over. There we go. So fasting has been practiced for thousands of years for religious, spiritual, and health reasons. It is not a fad, but a scientifically backed method to promote metabolic health, improve insulin sensitivity, as we've talked about before, and to support weight loss. Okay? So lots of different things that fasting can do, and we've discussed here on this show, on this channel, in fact, lots of the things that fasting will do for us. And you'll see there, improved insulin sensitivity. That's a big one when it comes to diabetes and reversing diabetes, right? Supports weight loss, right? That's a huge one because a lot of people enter fasting with that in mind. And we're going to see a question, one of the myths here in just a minute that kind of addresses that as well. Okay. Next myth: you can eat whatever you want during non-fasting hours. Oh, wait. I gotta pop over and talk more about this one. So, any diet that you use, any lifestyle change that you use, any tool that you use has to be used appropriately. So a lot of times people will use a particular diet. They'll go on the Mediterranean, they'll go on this other diet, and they'll do that, intensely for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then they'll go back to eating the way they used to eat before. Well, that doesn't solve the issue for the reason that you went into the diet, the lifestyle change in the first place, right? Because you've just gone back to what you were doing before. The same thing here with fasting, okay? Fasting is most effective when paired with a balanced diet during eating periods. During the eating window, you want to pair it with a balanced diet. Eating highly processed, sugary foods can negate the benefits of fasting by causing insulin spikes. Oh, there it is, right? Pillar number one, by causing insulin spikes and promoting fat storage. So one of the big things that I talk about in the fasting process as we break the fast, and we'll talk about that when we do our fasting review, is portions, right? You'll recall that, let's see, where was that? So when we did one of our challenges, this challenge, we challenge you to eat what we thought was an appropriate meal. Well, not what we thought. We challenge you to eat or create an appropriate meal. And the appropriate meal was whole foods, minimize the processing, no added sugar, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, healthy fats, lean protein, tasty, and look at that one down at the bottom, appropriate portion size. Right? So you have to pair fasting with the right method if you're going to be successful. If you don't have the right portions, then on those non-fasting days, you're undoing what you're doing during the fast. Okay? So make sure that you are taking care, because otherwise you get those spikes, and then you get the other issues. Fasting is not safe for women. This is another one of those myths. And the fact is that while fasting can affect hormones differently in women, because women have some different hormones, many women successfully practice fasting without adverse effects. So millions of women around the world are fasting. Women who are pregnant, breastfeeding, or who have a history of eating disorders should consult a healthcare provider before fasting. And you've heard me say on the show that we currently do not promote for women who are pregnant, women who are breastfeeding. We don't promote that for fasting. Now, you can come and talk with me and we can develop a process, but I wouldn't recommend, if you're in one of those two categories, that you just hop out and say, okay, I'm starting to fast. Okay, breastfeeding and pregnant women. If you have a history of eating disorder, now we're talking about this under women, but if you are a man and you have an eating disorder, then you also should be touching base with your healthcare provider. Okay, making sure that you're doing that, because we always want to be healthy as we are moving through the fasting process. Okay, fasting causes you to enter starvation mode after just a few hours. Right? People say once you start fasting, after just a few hours, you're entering starvation mode. So starvation mode is characterized by a significant drop in metabolic rate, and it only occurs after prolonged periods of starvation, not after a few hours or even a few days of fasting. That's not what happens. Okay? Short-term fasting increases the metabolic rate. In fact, and one of the other myths that we're coming up here in just a minute. So you will see that fasting does not put you into starvation. In fact, we love fasting because it does the opposite. Starvation causes the metabolic rate to slow down. Fasting actually revs that up. Okay? All right. The next myth. Fasting increases cortisol levels and leads to chronic stress. Right? Because fasting is a stress on the body. The fact is that while cortisol levels may rise slightly during fasting due to the body's natural stress response, because it is a stress on the body, the increase is usually temporary and not harmful. Many people find that fasting helps to reduce overall stress by improving insulin sensitivity and stabilizing blood sugar levels. So while it does cause a spike in the cortisol level, it is short-lived. And in fact, as people get further into fasting, they find that they are calmer as they get improved blood sugars, they get into ketosis, so all those things, growth hormone comes out, lots of other hormones that will show up. We're not spending time talking about that now, but those are things that people will feel. So it's not causing chronic prolonged stress. It actually, people find that it actually improves what they're doing or how they feel. Fasting can lead to eating disorders. Right? So this kind of harkens back to one of the myths that we talked about earlier, people who have eating disorders. So fasting is not inherently linked to eating disorders, but it should be approached with mindfulness, especially by people with a history of eating disorders. Fasting can be healthy when practiced in a balanced approach and not as a form of restriction. So remember, fasting is not a restriction. Fasting is a lifestyle. Let me say it again. We're not restricting what we're doing, but fasting is a tool that we're using to reduce or decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and reduce sugar. Those are the three things. Those are the three pillars that we've been talking about, right? Those are the three pillars. So decrease sugar or decrease insulin, suppress appetite, reduce sugar. And so fasting is a method to do that. It is not a restriction that we're using. It is a method, it is a tool to get us in that direction. Okay. So fasting can lead to eating disorders. We talked about that. Fasting is only for weight loss. And right? You know what I'm going to say about this one, right? Because, and where's my diagram? Here it is. So fasting helps with metabolism. So metabolic diseases. Diabetes being the prototypic metabolic disease, but fasting helps with all of those other diseases as we've mentioned before. So whether it's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, coronary artery disease, obesity, right, and on and on and on and on, fasting helps with those. So it is not just for weight loss as has been proposed, or that is a myth. Okay, and the fact is that fasting offers numerous health benefits beyond weight, including improved insulin sensitivity, enhanced autophagy, reduced inflammation, and potentially increased longevity. Those are all things that fasting will do. All right, next myth. Fasting will make you feel hungry all the time. I hear this one, and I'm a witness that is not the case. Hunger often decreases during fasting as the body becomes more efficient at using energy stores. Right? Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, adapts over time, reducing the sensation of hunger. And I was talking to someone just, was it yesterday or the day before? They were asking me about fasting, and I said to them, hey, after that first 8 to 12 hours, right, and that's because, social cues, my team at work, my family is sitting down to eat. After those first 8 to 12 hours, I am not hungry. Now, I still have to struggle with the cues that are around me, right? Because remember the heat model? We'll talk about that later on. But the heat model says that we eat because of habits, emotions, access, and taste. So in my mind, there is still that thing that says, hey, go eat. But it's not that I'm hungry. I don't feel hungry, right? Sometimes my stomach will growl, as I walked through the kitchen today. And what did we have today? The team was eating. Anyway, they were eating, and I smelled it. And they actually got me a plate. And it was on top of the refrigerator. It's in the refrigerator now. And I got there, and I was like, I need to eat. But I wasn't hungry, right? It was just that my mind was telling me that we need to do that. All right. So fasting will make you hungry all the time. So hunger actually dissipates after a while. You have to fast for long periods to see benefits. And the truth is, even short fasts, such as intermittent fasting, 16-8, right? And we did shows on that, can often significantly help with your health, right? You get benefits from them. The benefits of fasting are cumulative and can be achieved with regular practice, even with shorter fasting windows. And we did a show several weeks ago where we talked about whether you should do a long fast or short fast. We went through the various types of fast that you can do, right? Intermittent fasting, the 5-2, the 24, the 1 meal a day, alternate day fasting, and so on and so forth. So all of those fasting, as we mentioned before, give benefits. Some will give you faster benefits, right? Depending on the, so you do not have to do longer fasts to see benefits. People ask me often why I do a 72-hour fast. I do a 72-hour fast because it is the fast that I chose, and it is the one that fits into my life, in my lifestyle, and it gives me the benefits that I need. Right. So one of the and let's see, do I have that? I haven't done it yet, or I haven't pulled it up yet. But one of the things that I've done is created a preparation, a little PDF called Preparation for Fasting. And within the preparation for fasting, one of the very first steps is to choose the fasting method that fits. Okay. So you do not have to go through. You don't have to not have to do extended fasts or longer fasts in order to get benefits. You do get them faster, but you can see benefits with even some of the shorter fasts. Okay, fasting is too hard to sustain. Fasting is too hard to sustain. Fasting can be adapted to fit individual lifestyles and needs. Many people find fasting sustainable once they establish a routine and experience the benefits. It's about finding the right fasting method that works for you. Now, so most often, fasting, when it doesn't work not because fasting doesn't work. It doesn't work because people have chosen a fasting method or a schedule that doesn't fit their lifestyle. I give the example of if your family sits down and eats a meal, eat their supper at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you decide you're going to start your fast at 4 o'clock, guess what? You've just set yourself up for failure, and you've just set yourself up for difficulty, because automatically there's dissonance there. There's conflict. So in that instance, if I'm going to do an intermittent fasting, for example, and my family sits down and they eat at 5 o'clock, then I'm going to set my fasting window to start after the family eats, maybe 6 o'clock or even 7 o'clock, so that there's not that conflict. Because what's going to happen is either you're going to be frustrated and you're going to break the fast and you're going to feel guilty, or you're going to persist with the fast and that's going to cause interpersonal relationship issues, right? Because you're sitting at the table, or you may decide, well, I can't even sit at the table because I'm going to be tempted. So you go off somewhere, and so you've removed yourself from the family and from the community. So fasting works. You've just got to find the right fast that works for you, right? So it's about finding the right fasting method that works for you. Very, very important. And so those are our myths. There are several other myths that we'll come back, we'll talk about later on. But for right now, here you go. Okay. All right. So let's hop over and let's take a look right now at my monitors. Well, not my monitor. Let's take a look at my report. As we mentioned before, let's see. Let's do this one. Okay, or maybe even this one. There you go. We've not done this one before, recently. All right, so you'll see there that my average blood sugar is 138. Okay, that's for the last 2 weeks. If I change that to 90 days, and then I'll come up here in just a minute, you'll see that my average blood sugar is 117. You'll see that I am in target 87% of the time, and the target range is 70 to 180. If I were to get an A1C right now, according to this, my A1C would be a 6.1. Okay, and we're going to be getting it actually here in just a little while, and maybe another week or two. If I look at my daily graph, and I want to scroll back on this, and we're going to start, because we started fasting way back here on Sunday. Okay. And right, so right there is where we started fasting. So right around 7 o'clock. And there's a spike from the food that I ate, and then the blood sugars are coming down, 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 down. right? We get and then moving into, so that right there is the first day. And so if we go here 24 hours later, we'll see blood sugars are now 118. That was on Tuesday. Okay, and then 86. Right, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so let's do that again. So 24 hours. All right, so we actually started here, actually. Yeah, so we started here on Sunday. So 24 hours, 188. 48 hours, 117. And then now 72 hours, 86. And we're beyond that now, so 74 hours. Let's see, 74, almost 75 hours, moving almost at 10 o'clock, and we're in the 90s. So we're going to see what that is as we get into the next. And I have not decided. So 72 hours is usually my fast. We went away and had an interesting time away while we were away, and you guys heard me talk about that as we did our show on Monday. And so I am in the process now of resetting, right? So I may do, so I did I've already done 72 hours. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to 96, but we'll see what that is. If I break it earlier, we'll let you know what that is. But we've done our 72 hours. Now, what I want to know, and if you've not already put your guess into the chat, what do you think my ketones are going to be? All right, so let's go ahead and let's grab my Libre. Actually, what I need to do is grab my Keto Mojo app and need to turn my Keto Mojo monitor on and let that sync. So it'll pull that information over. And you should see it's, yeah, there it is. It says syncing. Syncing. And so I have not checked ketones since we checked in last week before we left for the camping trip. So what do you think is going to be? What do you think it's going to be? All right, so here we are. So blood sugars are 58, and then ketones are 2.2. Ketones 2.2. And for ketones, remember, ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis. And then above 1.5 is considered therapeutic ketosis. And so right now, I am above 1.5, so we're in the therapeutic range. If I look at the actual graph, all right, so I'm going to back up so you can see where we were. This was 2 weeks ago when we did our check-in. And you'll see that ketones were high. So the turquoise line at the top, those are ketones. And then the tan line at the bottom, that is blood sugar. And then, of course, this next week, we did not check ketones while we were away. And then, of course, this week, you'll see here, let's see, where did they go? Okay, there it is. So ketones right there are, so blood sugar of 58. And then where are my ketones? Right, ketones. So glucose of 58. And for some ketones of 2.2. There you are. Okay. So glucose of 58, ketones of 2.2. And as we get into tomorrow, we get another number, then we'll see those probably a little clearer. Okay. And let's pop back over here, and we'll go back and take a look at some of the previous ones. You'll see last time we checked in, before this time, glucose was 64, ketones 1.9, and then before that, glucose of 73 and ketones of 1.6. Yep. And so that's how the body functions. We will do our check-in tomorrow. We will do our show, of course, the 24-hour stream on Friday, but we will be talking more about how the body functions with ketones, how it transitions. We'll be doing a review of fasting, and we want to make sure that you are here for that. All right, so let's see. It looks like we have someone. So New Goals says hello. New Goals, hello. to go ahead and give you a hand clap and some music to welcome you to the community. If you're out there, go ahead and hop over and say hello. Let us know that you're here. Let's see. I know that right now we are streaming to those platforms. Instagram right now we are not streaming to. So those of you who might have been on Instagram, we apologize for that. So make sure that you catch us on one of the other social media platforms. All right. So how do we proceed? What do we do? What are the things that push us? And I want to talk a little bit about your unlimited potential, right? You know, I always start there. You have the ability to be healthy. You have within your ability, your power, the ability to create your destiny. You may have done things in the past, even things that right now are causing issues for you in terms of health. But that's the past. And right now we can make a change and we can move into the future. We do that by educating, empowering, and encouraging. You have unlimited potential. You have the ability to learn, to make changes, to make decisions, to move from the space that you're in and move into a different space. Unlimited. We do that by the Triple E formula for success. As we do it here on the show, we educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows that we do, the podcast, the blogs. All of this is with the intention of providing information to help you to make a frame shift, to change your thought process, to look at things from a different perspective, to get a growth mindset that says, I don't have to stay where I am. I can be different. I can make changes. We educate, we empower with the tools that we learn. And each month we have a different tool that we're learning, or each month we have a different challenge that we're learning that helps you put those tools into practice. So join the challenges as you come through and as you're moving into this space, right? Each month we have one, figuring out your why, learning to fast for about 24 hours once a week, figuring out emotional intelligence, what medications should you be on? What medications should you stop? How to create a meal, right? All of those are challenges that help you to implement the things that we're learning here in the channel. And then we also provide encouragement. And encouragement comes from the community that you are a part of, the community that you are making so rich and that you are helping to develop. So we educate, we empower, and we encourage. Remember, the things that push us, the triggers that push us in a direction, they are the things that cause us issues. We eat because of habits, emotions, access, and taste. Those are the reasons why we eat. They push us in that direction. They push us off of the course. They push us off of our plan. They push us off of our fast. The habits, the routines. As I mentioned before, the social cues that you will see. Those are the things that push us. Not because we're hungry, but because it's lunchtime, because we went to the movies, because everybody else around us is eating. We eat because of habits. We eat because of emotions, access, and taste. Emotions, those, the depression, the anxiety, the fatigue, the boredom, the loneliness, all of those things will push us in the direction to eat because it helps to soothe us. And we eat because of access, just because things are around us. Not because we're hungry, but we pass by that coworker's desk. We pass by the pantry. We pass by the kitchen, and ooh, there it is. And we eat it just because. And then we eat because of taste. The bliss point is the combination, the right combination, the perfect combination of sugar, fat, and salt. That thing that when you eat it, you say, I can't just have one. Let me have some more. To eat because of the heat model. For me, it's all three. It's, well, not all three, but it's three. Emotions, access, and taste. Those are mine. What's yours? That was one of the challenges that we had, for you to figure out which of these is the thing that pushes you. And then our call to action. When you get here, join the challenges. We've just mentioned them. Make sure that you are there, that you are partaking or you're participating in the challenge. Don't just let the show be something that you hear that you put on the shelf. Right? Get actively engaged with the challenges. They are how you will begin learning to implement the things that we are doing here on the channel. And then when you show up, tell your story. Yeah, claim your seat. Say, I'm here. I'm fasting. I've had success. I've had a struggle. I'm doing this. Several people in our community have talked about how they are improving in terms of their energy, in terms of getting off of medication, getting blood sugars under control, getting the A1C down, improving their weight. All of those are benefits that you see. Share that with the community, because as we see you, then we get to get excited, right? Because if you can do it, then I can do it as well. And then when we see the struggles that you're having, we can rally around you to let you know that you're not alone, and that we know that we are not alone as well. And then invite someone. Invite someone to this space. Invite them to the community. Let them know what's going on. You can be the voice of change for your community, for your family, for your job, for your church, in all those spaces. There are over 1 billion people on the planet right now who suffer from diabetes or pre-diabetes, and you can be a voice to say, hey, it doesn't have to be like that. Come, let's go watch this show. Let's go watch this episode. Let's walk through these challenges together. Let's go and listen. Get a group together and watch through the shows. Let me pop over here, and I'm gonna pull up the YouTube channel here on my phone, because we have several playlists that are out there that you can start working through, that you can start looking through. Let's see, where's the playlist? The one that I want to show you is the one that's called How to Fast Successfully. How to fast successfully. There it is. So let's hop over there. You take a look. Right? So how to fast successfully. So right now in this playlist, there are 64 different episodes that we've done on all the things that we've done so far as we've moved through the fasting space. You want to make sure that you get out there, get with someone and say, hey, let's go watch this. Let's go look at this together, because we want to be healthy. Okay? And then y'all, our pillars, sorry. I'm gonna say triple E formula for success. The pillars are, right, to decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and reduce sugar. Those are the pillars for reversing diabetes. If you've not done so, go ahead and make sure you watch those shows as we move through. We started the third pillar this past week. On Sunday, we have, of course, our This Week in Review, where we recap what's going on for the week. And on this coming Friday, we have our 24-hour anniversary stream that's going to be playing. You want to be there. You want to walk through the path of reversing diabetes together with us. Make sure you're there to celebrate with us 4 years. 4 years in this space. And we'll share some statistics, share some numbers with you as we move through that space. But you make sure you're here to celebrate with us. I'm very happy. I'm excited that I'm able to spend some time with you. As I always say, when I get to this space, you are my community, and the community is strong because you are in it. As I always say, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. We'll see you tomorrow at our check-in. We'll see you on Friday for our 24-hour stream anniversary celebration. And then we'll see you on Sunday for our This Week in Review. Good night, everybody. Have a great evening.